watching The Breakdown with the Fight Analyst, Garrett Kerman.
And what's up, everybody? The Fight Analyst here with my man, a special guest, Mr. Eli Rohner from In the Sports. What's up, man? Thank you so much for coming on the show with us, breaking down UFC Vegas 28. So glad the fights are back. So how's it going on this fine Thursday evening?
I'm doing well, my friend. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it, as always. It's been good. Major sports have been going really well with NBA playoffs and stuff, and really looking forward to this UFC card.
Oh, hell yeah, man. I'm just looking forward to that. Fights are finally back. We got a full, fight card coming up, 14 fights on tap. We got a full month of fights between Bellator, PFL, UFC. We got Floyd Mayweather taking on Logan Paul this Sunday. We got boxing coming up as well. We got tons and tons of fights this entire summer. So we got a lot going on. I'm just glad to be back, man. When it comes, yeah, man. I mean, we had the Ultimate Fighter. Ultimate Fighter just came back Tuesday. There was. Man, it was so good to finally get the Ultimate Fighter back. That's when I started watching UFC back in 2005 when I was only 15 years old. So yep. It's kind of nostalgic. It feels great. So what do you think of the first episode? Who do you like? Who do you see possibly coming out and being victorious?
It's going to be a good one. I was just like watching them. They did their little preview, and I was just watching them talk about their favorite moments and stuff. And it was like such a good like hype up. And I'm trying to think of the moments. When McGregor was fighting with Dillashaw, and the Dana White speech. Do you want to be a fucking fighter? Just like going through and looking at all that. I mean Raposo, you gotta like Raposo there.
Yeah, definitely. And of course he's from the Northeast, so all about him.
Yeah, absolutely love him. I follow him and everything. Man, I'll tell you what, I like him to win. I think Petrosky, I think he's a stud.
Yeah, those are my two favorites to win.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I think those are the obvious choices. I have to dig a little deeper and find a sleeper pick maybe. But yeah, we should talk about that sometime on the show.
Yeah,
recaps or something.
I'm totally down to do a tough recap after the show, maybe around Tuesday nights, 10 p.m. Fresh off the Ultimate Fighter, do a little recaps show about how it's going down and all that good stuff. But yeah, but we're here to break down some fights. We're here to make some money. We're here to cash out this weekend, UFC Vegas 28. Totally looking forward to this fight card. 14 fights on tap. It's a great fight card to come back to after, a week off of fights. So let's get right down to it right now.
Let's do it.
All right. So our first fight up on the prelims is a fight at 155 pounds between Claudio Puelles and Jordan Levitt. Puelles 9-2, Levitt 8-0. Levitt's a -200 favorite in the comeback on Puelles is a +170 underdog. Puelles 5'11", Jordan Levitt 5'9", 72-inch reach for Puelles, 71-inch reach for Levitt. Who do you got in this one?
This is gonna be a fun fight, man. I think it's gonna be a weird one. It's first of all, it's not often that you see two southpaws match up with each other. So there's always some quirky stuff that you can count on for that. I love Jordan Levitt. He's, as we all know, he's a wrestler, grappler. He's fighting out of Syndicate MMA. Awesome place to be right now. 8-0. Beat Flores on the Contender Series by triangle arm choke. He actually came into that on short notice, I believe, and he fought just like 2 weeks before it, but he was game for it, and he impressed us with that. I think everyone was pretty impressed with that. Pretty low-level competition, so you do have to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt, but he got that UFC shot, and he came in and fought Matt Wiman and violently slammed him to the ground. One of the most violent slams I think I've ever seen. That was actually kind of scary. Wiman had a tough time getting up after that.
Yeah, that was pretty brutal. I think it's actually one of the fastest slam knockouts in UFC history too.
Not surprised to hear that. And yeah, he wasn't moving for a little while, but he thankfully ended up getting up. I wouldn't consider him an elite fighter by any means, but he seems to be one of those barometer guys where they put him up against an up-and-comer and see how it goes. He has a loss to Luis Pena. He has a loss to Selecki, and now Jordan Levitt. So, those are all guys that are kind of, on or were on the rise, so to speak. So, yeah, I wouldn't consider it a great win schedule of strength-wise, but I think, like we just talked about, how emphatically it was finished, I think, is really, like, the highlight there. In his brief UFC career, I mean, this guy's averaging 6 takedowns per 15. That's a lot. And I don't know if that's a sustainable number, but it's a blueprint for what he wants to do and what he likes to do. He's averaging 3+ submission attempts. So pretty small sample size, but obviously looks really good on the mat. And he's quirky and weird with his submissions, and he's relentless with them.
Right.
Yeah. So Poyes, he's another grappler. He's at Stanford, another great place to be. I'm sure you saw that interview recently where he was talking about who he's been training with and, how he feels like he's up to that level. And he looks around the gym and sees all these killers that he's drilling with, and he feels ready for this. He was a little cocky about Jordan Levitt, said that he wasn't even the toughest fight that he's had yet in his career. I'm not sure if I agree with that, but that's neither there. This guy's in great shape, man. He is a physical specimen. He looks ripped. He's a Muay Thai guy. He's a Lucha Libre guy. So he does have that wrestling-based, scrambling-based type style. His last fight was almost 2 years ago. He was just 23. He didn't get a finish, but he dogged the guy like pretty much throughout the whole fight. 13 of 15 minutes were control time for him. It only took him 4 takedowns to amass that time. So the control is there, very adequately controlling his opponent on the ground. Again, low-level competition, but the skill set is there. I think we're going to see some weird scrambles here. I think we're going to see some weird sub-attempts, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Both these guys are the type that push the action in their fights. I'm not sure if either of these guys have ever defended a takedown before. Not sure if they've ever had to. So it's going to be interesting to see who can really impose that game plan. Man, I hate to go against Levitt because I really like him, but I believe that Poyes, I think he's a live dog here, man. I really do. And if you're looking for some value, I think that's a good dog to bet. What do you think?
Yeah, it's an interesting fight, especially how Levitt, fights, and his grappling is pretty top notch. But he also hasn't fought hardly anybody remotely good. Weinman, he was on his last legs. He got cut immediately after that slam knockout. Puelles, on the other hand, hasn't fought in 2 years, but he's at least coming off 2 wins. Can't really call Mariano a really good win because Mariano was arguably one of the worst signings of the UFC. Yep. But he did have a really great comeback win against Silva, who he was getting his ass beat pretty damn bad during that fight, but he came back and won that fight. So that's pretty good there. But I also like to see that he's looking to progress. He's looking to get better. He took time off. Exactly. He changed camps. Now he's training with the killers over at Sanford Never May. He's got the litter of wrestlers to go with, the jiu-jitsu guys to roll with. He's got the Burns brothers. He's got Chandler. He's got Logan Storley. He's got a ton of high-level grapplers to go with. Obviously, if this fight plays on the feet whatsoever, Puelles is definitely going to have the advantage. I know he doesn't land a ton of strikes. He's only landing 1.95 per minute, and he's absorbing 3.73, but he's still the better striker. Jordan Levitt's not gonna want to go in there and strike. That's just not his MO. He wants to go in there and he wants to grapple, get this fight to the mat. And it's gonna be a very closely contested fight. And man, it's really hard to pick. I really don't like the line of -200 on Levitt, but I do think he gets the win here. I think he'll just rack up some control time, against the cage, take him down, just kind of control him a little bit. And I feel like he gets the win via decision. The over 2.5 rounds, I believe, is at like plus 115, if I'm not mistaken, around there.
That's interesting. That's interesting odds on that.
Yeah, it's like plus. It says like plus 106, but I'm trying to go all the way down. Hold on.
Crafty on the mat, there are two guys that are crafty on the mat, probably live for a sub, but
Plus 115 over 2.5 rounds.
interesting.
I think I think that's actually pretty decent considering I don't think Poirier has never been subbed in his
Right.
entire career. And obviously Levitt hasn't either. And and Poirier isn't a finisher by any means. So over 2.5 rounds at plus 115, it sounds like a decent play.
Yeah, sure.
My boy over here, McGregor beats both these clowns. I would hope so. I really would hope so.
2-on-1.
2-on-1 too. Oh, did you hear Tito Ortiz was offered $100,000 to fight two people at once, and he can pick the opponents.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to tune in if that ever happens.
That's Fight Circus for you. That is that place, that organization. They're fucking nuts.
I want to see that stuff though.
Oh no, it's fun. I don't know if you saw the last one. The last one was hilarious.
Know.
Oh god, you have to go back and try to watch it. Shit is so funny. You have 2-on-1 fights, guys fighting midgets. It's just ridiculous. All right,
circus.
Yep, Fight Circus. All right, next up we have a fight in the featherweight division between Yusuf Zalal and Sean Woodson. Right now, Woodson is a minus 175 favorite, and the comeback on Yusuf Zalal is a plus 155 underdog. Zalal is 10-4, Woodson 7-1, 5'10" for Zalal, 6'2" for Woodson, 75-inch reach for Zalal, 79-inch reach for Woodson. Who do you got?
Another interesting fight with a line that seems a little wide, but we'll dive into it. So I love Zalal. How do you not? How do you not like this kid? He's out of Factory X. Some amazing talent there. Hernandez, Royval, Nicholas Mata, my boy. Love that kid. He is a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. Averages about 2.5 takedowns per 15. And he hits basically every other one, 56%. He likes to throw in a submission attempt or two. We all know that famous video where he's I think it's Peter Barrett. He's choking out and he's smiling about it, going for a submission. So the guy's just an animal. He's good TV. Love his energy. He's got a lot of heart. Great footwork in the octagon. Very quick, very agile. Moves around with precision. Striking defense is pretty good. He's pretty low volume, but he's not a guy that takes a lot of shots either. Just double check those numbers.
Yeah, 1.56.
Yeah, exactly. He, so very tactical, precision striker, not a lot of volume, which is always a concern here, the way that things are being judged. He went
especially going against somebody like Sean Woodson.
Exactly, who he's going to be bringing the hands. So won his first 3 in the UFC, ran into a couple tough L's. That Topuria fight, that was a tough one. The Choi was a tough one. I think they're both on short notice, or one of them at least was on short notice. So, the guy's a gamer. He hops in there. He struggled in that Choi fight. Choi kind of stuffed the takedowns. He only completed 3 of 9 of them and ended up getting taken down a few times himself. Pretty similar control time, but again, it was just the volume on the feet from Choi that really separated those two and gave Zalal issues there. I do like the kid. Love him a lot. I think he's awesome. And he's going to go for takedowns, and he's going to go for submission attempts, and that seems to be a solid path to victory to Woodson, who is like a tree out there. So yeah, I super contrast in styles. Woodson, I don't think he's ever attempted a takedown in his entire UFC career. His defense, it's pretty good though. It's 77%, but the striking is really his bread and butter. Averaging almost 6.5 SIG strikes per minute, only absorbing 4. Those are pretty good metrics. Super long for that division. The guy's 6'2", he has a 78-inch reach. So, the path to victory for Zalal is definitely going to be taking him down. It seems like in his last fight or two, Woodson really got good at defending those takedowns, really good at establishing those underhooks and preventing people from grinding him out. He trains with Chiesa a lot. So you can imagine that people are bringing it to him, trying to take him down. And I'm impressed considering how tall he is, because sometimes once you topple the tree, it's it's tough to get out of that, but we all know that KO he had on the Contender Series, awesome flying knee. But but the thing there again is he was taken down consistently through round one, and he kind of got dogged a little bit, had to dodge like the submission barrage a little bit. And
but you also have to factor in the level of wrestler he faced compared to Zalal. So Terrence McKinney is actually a pretty good wrestler, which is kind of why I was high on him going into that fight. I thought he would just be able to control him and grind him out because of how tall he was. But he was able to get back up and put the hurt on him.
Yep. And then so his next fight, he fights Kyle Bochniak, and that was in Boston. Bochniak is a Boston guy, so the crowd hated Woodson. Very, very, very pro Bochniak there.
Stuffed 14 of 15 takedowns.
Yep, that was the stat I was just gonna say. 1 of 15, and you don't have to be a great wrestler. Like you could be a subpar wrestler and still probably get a couple more than that. So Woodson, that was the game plan, was to defend those takedowns, keep the fight on the feet, use his range really well, and just throw those hands and keep the fight at distance. He's really good against the fence, I noticed, like stuffing takedown attempts and even getting back up. He's really good. I don't know if it's his length and his just lanky limbs that allow him to do that, but he's pretty effective over there. I'd say Zalal's probably a better grappler than him. But yeah, I think he would have finished Kyle. Kyle just has a chin on him. I think that Boston crowd was really behind him pretty hard. Woodson, he's composed, man. He's professional. He's composed. Has a calm demeanor. He doesn't seem to get rattled very much. When he goes for that kill shot, you can see that killer instinct, and that's something that you always like to see, like out of a fighter you're backing. This is a tough one. I hate to go against Zalal and just choose the fave. I think Woodson can do exactly what he's been doing, which is minimize the takedown damage and keep fights standing in that range. And once he starts cracking, it's tough to stay away from him, So what do you think?
So your pick is Woodson?
I like Woodson there.
All right.
What do you think?
Yeah, I feel like this is a very tough fight for Zalal. Sure. He's already had troubles with fighters that are bigger than him. We've seen that in the Troy fight. Troy was able to just get back up and pretty much just manhandle him on the feet. He's at a massive disadvantage when it comes to volume. And, fighters that bring the volume to Zalal tend to, drown him. Exactly. We've seen that. And it's gonna be tough. This Woodson's range and his striking is just superb.
For sure.
And he was winning, his last fight until he started slowly gassing his way out. I just don't think Zalal's gonna be able to make him work as much as what the hell? What's his name? That made him work the fight before. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But I don't think he's gonna be able to. I think he's gonna be able to, keep the distance, throw his volume, stay on him, use his jab, use his reach, and he actually has a 6-inch reach advantage. Tapology is incorrect on Zalal's reach. Zalal only has a 72-inch reach, so he has a 6-inch reach advantage.
Good find.
So that's very impressive, and that's going to be very hard for Zalal to get inside the reach. So he's going to have to, grapple. He's going to have to get it down to the mat and keep it down to the mat. I don't think he's yet kept a fight to the mat in his UFC career, and I don't think he's going to be able to do it here. I think Woodson does get up if he gets taken down. And I just don't think, Woodson's going to have too much trouble on the feet. So I'm taking Woodson here, minus 175. I kind of wanted a better line, but I still think minus 175 is actually pretty decent, considering the intangibles that Woodson has, the advantages that he has on the feet. You talk about a guy that's landing more than he's landing 4 times as he's landing 4 more strikes per minute. And he's throwing almost quadruple the amount of volume that Zalal does. Because Zalal's only throwing 4.9 strikes per minute. And then you have, Woodson that's throwing at least 13 strikes a minute. So that's kind of crazy.
Man, that Woodson-Arosa fight was friggin' awesome.
Yeah, it was.
That
I
was a
mean,
banger
yeah,
of a
and
fight,
I don't think Zalal can fight the way Rosa did. I don't think Zalal can come and just meet him and just press forward and eat the punches out of Rosa did, because Rosa ate some nasty punches.
He's got a chin. It was nice to see him, reach that pinnacle of what he can do, because I love that kid, Tough. He was great to watch on Tough, and it was nice to see him develop. And he's still young, he's still in his fighting prime, so it's cool. But anyway,
And he's gotten a lot better. He's won 2 in a row now,
Yep.
in emphatic fashion too. So
Yep.
sky's the limit for him. But yeah,
For sure.
Woodson -175. All right.
We like it. We're on it.
Next up, we have a fight in the women's flyweight division between Manon Ferro and Tabitha Ricci, short notice replacement for Marina Moroz. Right now, Ferro, I believe, is a -500 favorites. And the comeback on Ricci is a +400 underdog. Right now, Ferro is not right now. Ferro is she is 6-1. Ricci 5-0. 5'7" for Ferro, 5'1" for Ricci, 66-inch reach for Ferro, 62-inch reach for Ricci. Who do you got?
Yeah, I think this is a pretty easy one to call.
Right.
I love Meno. I was big on her, like we were talking about before the show. We were both pretty big on her prior to this scheduling change, and I guess we're going to find a way to find some value out of that line somehow, whether it's a parlay or inside the distance. Meno, she doesn't have a lot of UFC experience, but outside of the UFC, she's pretty accomplished. And she made her debut on Fight Island, which is one of those, that's a big stage, big lights, bright lights type of thing. So I don't think she'll be scared of a big moment. And she showed crazy volume on the feet, outstriking her opponent by about 2 miles, and, landed about 60% of the strikes in that fight and just looked great, mixed in a takedown, just really well-rounded, super slick on the feet. The countering, I think, was what impressed me the most, was that every time they went after, it was just she had an answer for it.
Right.
She has a great career as a kickboxer and mixes the strikes in really well. She likes to throw that right hand and then quick hit you with a leg kick real quick. It's just very diverse. Crisp combos, very technical striking. You don't see the combos so much in women's MMA, but man, she throws 1, 2, 3, 4, goes right after you. So very polished on the feet. They were saying she's been improving her grappling a lot. That was something that she wants to work on. So, I think it will be interesting to see how that plays out. As for the opponent, again, I don't think anyone really has a whole lot of info on her. I noticed that in her schedule, she has a couple wins in her pro career, but she's never fought somebody with a winning record before. So this is like super low-level stuff. Now, this girl could be the real deal, and we just don't know. But until she really has that litmus test to show us what she's made of it, it's going to be tough to back her as a massive dog. Also, like you were just listing the specs, man, she's 5'1". She's used to fighting at 115. And now I think she has to come up to 125, right?
Right.
So, she's a peanut in there, and Mano is just down for the bomb her. So, I don't know. You got anything else on that, or just pretty
yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Mena Ferro is probably going to absolutely demolish Tabitha Ricci. She's basically a sacrificial lamb. It was kind of like the same thing with Guillermo, or I forgot his last name. The guy that fought on the last card on 24 hours notice that missed weight against Dvorak. Yeah,
Yep.
This is basically the
same.
Yeah, this is going to be the same type of thing. You're talking about Ferro, who's a sensational striker, very high level. She was one of the top prospects coming into the UFC. Her only loss is at 138 pounds. She's 6-0, actually technically 8-0 at 125 pounds. She's 3-2 at 135 pounds as an amateur. She's a 12-0 Muay Thai kickboxer. She's a karate kickboxing black belt. So she's got the crazy credentials to really make it in the UFC. Arguably, I think she's one of the best strikers now in the division.
Agreed.
We have yet to see, her getting pushed in the grappling, but she still is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu purple belt. So,
yep.
So you got to give her, credit there. So she's actually working on it, and she's just super strong, super fast. And I just don't think Tabitha has anything for her. And you're talking about Tapology has her as the 52nd best strawweight in Brazil. You're talking about Brazil.
Pretty bad to begin with, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty bad when you're 52nd in a country with a bunch of garbage cans.
Yep.
Like where people just like stack up records and you're the 52nd best, and we know the size advantage. She's, 6 inches shorter. She's got a 4-inch reach disadvantage here. She is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. She trains with the likes of Mackenzie Dern. So
yep.
I think she's more on the higher level of Jiu-Jitsu, but she's never faced anybody remotely as big, remotely as strong, as fast, as great of a striker that Amanda Ferro is. So it's going to be a really tough fight for her. And honestly, I'd be extremely surprised that she loses. Like, Agapova, I mean, I would be...
I'd be more surprised, yeah.
Yeah. I'll be more surprised here than Agapova loses.
Same.
Because at least Shayna Dobson was an actual UFC fighter. She fought high level competition.
Yeah.
Before fought on the Ultimate Fighter. This girl has fought absolute nobody. She's also fought custom rules fights over in Brazil. No idea what the hell the custom rule fight is.
I was just gonna say, what exactly does that entail?
I have no idea. All I know is I look on Tapology, it's saying custom rules match. I'm not entirely sure what the hell that means, but she fought it. She's fought a bunch of them too, no less. So, and they're like 2 rounds, and it's like she's won by like points. I have no fucking clue. It was weird, but yeah, I'm all over Ferro here. To be honest, I think she's a safe piece that you could just anchor into every parlay. I just don't see how she's losing this fight, honestly, because I was big on her against Marina Moroz.
Same.
So now her getting an opponent that shouldn't be in the UFC, yeah, I think she goes in there, absolutely starches her, and probably in round 1.
All right, I agree.
Next up, we have a fight at 155 pounds between Alan Patrick and Mason Jones. Right now, Jones is a -275 favorite, and the comeback on Patrick is a +235 underdog. Patrick is 15-3, Jones 10-1, 5'11" for Patrick, 5'10" for Jones, 74-inch reach for Patrick, 72-inch reach for Jones. Who do you got?
Yeah. So, like you just said, 10-1 overall for Mason Jones. He was undefeated coming into the UFC, and he got a tough debut against our boy Mike Davis.
Very tough debut.
Right, seriously. That's a tough fight for anybody, let alone a debutee. And most of his experience comes from Cage Warriors, so that's always like been a breeding ground for good talent to come into the UFC. Mike Davis, I can't consider that a bad loss. It was a really close fight. We were talking about that earlier in the week. Very close fight. Honestly, may have gone either way. Super high pace, super high output from both of these guys. Davis, he's only 2-2 in the UFC, but his losses, Sadiq and Gilbert Burns, no shame there.
Absolutely.
So Davis goes 3 for 5 on his takedown attempts in round 1 and gives Jones a lot of trouble. In the following rounds, Jones defends 4 in a row, the only attempts that he sees. So you could see he was making adjustments, and he knew that was a game plan, and we saw the good result out of that. That fight, it was a tough L for Jones, losing the 0. That's always kind of tough for a fighter. But he also won fight of the night. So, there's definitely a silver lining there. Good experience. And sometimes you have to take that L. It's just the way the fight game goes. I've been checking his Instagram out. He's been training at Uriah Faber's gym. We all know that there's a lot of championship pedigree flowing around there. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Decent striking. I think his striking defense could use a little work. It is tough to kind of gauge where he's really at. Mike Davis is someone who's going to hit you, so it's tough. I think it's tough to gauge how good his striking defense really is. I don't think that's something that Patrick is going to try to exploit. So I think all of that looks really good for Mason Jones. On to Patrick. He is a southpaw. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. The guy's 37 years old, so he's getting up there. He's an 8-fight vet. Over his career, he's averaging 3.5 takedowns in the UFC, but his last 4, he's averaging 5 per fight. So these are all decisions that he's a decision machine. I think he has a KO loss, and that's the only fight he has that hasn't gone to decision. It just seems like he's the type of guy that wouldn't have the urgency to keep up with Jones, especially like a young, fiery, motivated Jones. So the way that he was thrown in his last fight, I can't see Patrick really having an answer for any of that stuff. I think the real question is, will Jones be able to stuff those takedowns? Because that's what Patrick wants to do. If Patrick isn't able to implement that game plan, Jones is going to violently piece him up on the feet, man. There's a big striking differential, I think, between those two, and we're going to see it not just in the output overall, but also the strikes landed and the damage done. So I think if Jones maybe wanted to take Patrick down, I think that the avenue for a takedown is there. Patrick's defense isn't stellar, but his best path to victory is to just keep him on the feet and piece him up at range. So I love Jones here. Can't help myself. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I'm all over Jones here. Patrick is on his last legs. He is Ronaldo Souza's, Jacare Souza's training partner. They are pretty much one and the same. They're looking aged. They're looking withered. 37 years old for Patrick. He looked extremely bad in the Bobby Green fight, especially when he can't get a takedown.
Yeah, exactly.
He was extremely gassed very early in the fight. And I pretty much see them the same here. He definitely has nothing on the feet for Jones.
Nothing.
The moment this stays on the feet, he's in a world of trouble. Jones is going to put the pace. He's going to put the pressure. He's going to put leather to his face, and he's going to batter him. And I do expect, a second round finish from Jones. And that's what he said he's going to do, and I expect the same. I think he finishes him within 2 rounds. I see people... There's some money pouring in Patrick, and keep it coming because minus 275. I love that line. That it's starting to get to a point where I would actually start betting that Jones line straight. Minus 275 is a line I would bet straight. I think that's a perfect line. Anything under minus 300, you slam the fuck out of it because I just don't see Patrick at this day and age being able to just hold down someone like Mason Jones. We saw him go against a very dangerous Mike Davis, and he was able to go tooth and nail for 15 minutes with him, banging it out with him. He got taken down, but got right back up. There was no control time for Mike Davis at all. And I don't see Patrick just being able to just lay on top of him and hold him down. So I got Jones here all day. I think this is coming out party. Talking about a guy that was very, very good over in the Cage Warriors, 2 division champion, 155, 170. So he's a lot stronger than people may think. He's a lot bigger than people may think. And, going to a camp where it's primarily, wrestling based at Team Alpha Male, I think his wrestling is going to be on point for this fight. And I see him just going in there and doing work. I think he's one of my most confident plays on the card.
Right there with you.
All right. Next up, we have a fight at 170 pounds between Francisco Trinaldo and Muslim Salikov. Right now, Salikov is a minus 245 favorite, and the comeback of Trinaldo is a plus 205. Underdog, Trinaldo is 26-7. Salikov 17-2, 5'9" for Trinaldo, 5'11" for Salikov. 70-inch reach for Trinaldo, 69.5-inch reach for Salikov. Also, 42 years and 9 months old for Mr. Trinaldo. Who do you got?
Man, I don't know what I can say about Trinaldo that everyone doesn't already know. I mean, the guy's been around forever. 42, soon to be 43. He's actually on a 3-fight win streak, which is generally, surprising considering his age because that's, normally when you see people start to climb. But he does have some good wins on his resume years and years back. Jim Miller, Bobby Green. He KO'd Paul Felder. This was 5 years ago, so we can't put a whole lot of stock into it now. But he does have awesome experience. He just beat Herbert, who was absolutely smacking him around in round 2 there. And I think Herbert gassed out Trinaldo, caught him with a massive, was it a left hand, maybe massive right or left hand, and just sat him down. The guy went out like a light. Trinaldo's coming up a weight class for this. Is that true?
That is true. He hasn't fought at anything other than 155 since his debut in UFC way back in the day at 185 pounds.
Right. So it's always interesting, and I guess it's a wild card. You never really know what you're going to get. But when an older fighter moves up a weight class, is it the training camp that's too tough? The weight cut's too tough for him? Is it just easier to stay up at that weight? You never really know like where they're at with that. He has a massive sample size for his stats, considering how many fights he has, and I kind of feel like he's just very like average everywhere. There's nothing super that stands out. He has a positive sig strike differential. He only hits about 44% of his strikes, so he's not piecing people up. Good striking defense, decent. And he will mix in a takedown, obviously, because, he'll throw a submission attempt every now and then. But, man, I don't love him in this spot. I think it's going to be tough for him against Salikov, the king of Kung Fu, who, how do you not love this guy? He comes from that boarding school that raises all those awesome wushu guys. Zabit, Magomed. He's been groomed as a winner from like a really early age. It seems like he kind of got a late jump in the UFC though, just looking at the numbers and stuff. He does have a 4-fight win streak, which is always impressive. Looks pretty dominant, has 2 KOs in a row, and then he won that unanimous decision over Star Poli. And we'll talk about him a little later. But he looked really dominant. His last fight against JDS was not his best work. JDS is really definitely aging out at this point, as we can see from his last couple fights.
You mean ZDS?
Sorry, you're right. Yeah. My bad. Yep. So anyway, he gets the win there. The judges gave it to him. I don't think he looked great, but that was the first time he fought in a couple of years, if I'm correct. So
right.
He also now is on another layoff. He contracted COVID. He pulled out of a fight earlier because of it. What effect does that have on people? I think it's still waiting to see what the correlation is there. Some guys just bounce back like it's nothing. Some guys like can't breathe after. So I guess we're going to see. The guy's so powerful. He has those 6 spinning back kicks that he likes to throw. He has huge, big, heavy, powerful hands. I've just got to wonder, is he moving a little bit slower? Did he make the jump into the UFC a little too late? The guy's turning 37 soon. I think this is kind of an ugly fight, to be honest, but I can't see Salikov losing. Can you? Is there any world where he loses this fight?
I mean, he shouldn't lose this fight. This should be I don't want to say a gimme, but it's a fight that's very winnable for him.
Yep.
You're talking about a guy that, he's going to go against Trinaldo, who's normally going to probably stand and bang with you. And that's exactly what Salikov wants. I mean, his background is, Wushu, Sando, Sanda kickboxing. It's very, very hard to deal with. I know it's very low volume, but, the kicks, he's very precise. He lands 46% of his strikes. He only absorbs 33% of his opponent's strikes. So he's outstriking his opponents, I want to say, by 13%, which is very, very good.
Yep.
And then you have Trinaldo. He's technically should be on a 5-fight win streak because he kind of should have beaten Alex Hernandez there.
That's right.
But he still hasn't looked great in each one of his wins. I think he lost to Bobby Green. We already know that. He was getting beat up by Jai Herbert. And then he landed that one hitter quitter. It is what it is. But I don't see that happening here against Salikov. He's just that good, in the striking for him to get caught with something like that. I don't see Trinaldo getting this fight to the ground either. He's definitely going to be the much smaller two of the fighters.
Yeah, he'll be smaller by a lot. I feel like, right?
I think so too. I mean, inches wise, he's only 2 inches shorter. But I just feel like he's not built for 170. He's not made for 170. I've met Trinaldo, great guy. I just don't see him being successful at 170 pounds because I feel like, someone like Salikov's cutting from 185, 190, maybe more than that, all the way down to 170. While Trinaldo's maybe hovering around 180 at the most to cut down to 170. He's not the biggest guy out there, and I just don't think he's going to be able to implement his grappling. It's especially since, Shalikov hasn't been taken down since his first fight in the UFC. Since then, he's defended all 11 takedowns in his last 4 fights. So I don't want to say I'm fairly confident, but I do think Salikov should get the win here. He should make it 5 in a row, and then hopefully, get a top 15 opponent, maybe fringe 15 ranked opponent. Because going 5-0, I think he kind of deserves it at that point. Especially, he beat Zaleski Dos Santos, and then now he's going down to a lightweight in, Francisco Trinaldo. I don't know why, but I mean, he's got some quality wins against Nordine Taleb, Laureano Staropoli, Zaleski Dos Santos. I mean, those are pretty decent wins. Obviously, it's not Trinaldo's resume, but it's still good nonetheless. I think the win he had over Zaleski Dos Santos was good. He did get knocked down in that first round, but to be able to get back up and weather the storm and get the win showed a lot in his in his promise and his potential. So yeah, I'll go with Salikov here. Minus 245. All right, next up we have a fight in the heavyweight division between Tanner Boser and Ilir Latifi. Right now, Tanner Boser is a minus 185 favorite, and the comeback on Latifi is a plus 160 underdog. Tanner Boser is 6'2". Ilir Latifi 5'10", 75.5-inch reach for Boser, 75-inch reach for Latifi. I feel like that's off. I'll get the actual stats over here. 19-7-1 for Boser, 14-8 for Latifi. Who do you got?
Yeah, this is kind of an interesting fight, and I love Tanner Boser. This is a very interesting spot considering just his skill set and how he fights. 3-2 in the UFC. Took that L last time out against Arlovsky. That was probably burnt a lot of people, and that was one of those fights where people were complaining a lot. It was kind of a close fight. Interesting decision by the judges. But whether it's a robbery or it was just the judges not being impressed by the lack of significant strikes by Boser, perhaps, I don't know. Boser, he's one of those gym rat kids. His dad owned a gym when he was growing up. He's a black belt. It's not something that you really see the way that he fights. He has that strong stance. He likes speed and precision, manages the distance. He manages his energy level pretty well. Very efficient on his feet. He's a purple belt. Sorry, my bad. Anyway, it's yet to really see, we've yet to see what he can do with that. I don't think he's ever really needed it. Might come in handy here. Latifi now, he's another 37-year-old guy. He's on a 3-fight L streak, but it's some pretty tough competition in there. I wouldn't say they're elite, but they're guys that are on the totem pole.
Derek Lewis.
Yeah, Derek Lewis. Corey
elite.
Anderson. Yep.
Those are two elite fighters.
You're
two
right.
of three.
Derek Lewis is literally fighting for a title. So yeah, totally. He does have some elite competition. It's just in his DNA to wrestle. The guy's been wrestling since he was a kid. Super strong wrestling skill set. He's been doing that since he was a baby, basically. It's in his blood. He fought that fight against Lewis, and honestly, pretty boring fight, considering how big these two guys are. But I think it was a lot closer than people would expect. And I think
Latifi won that fight.
I was just gonna say, man, you could really make a good argument for Latifi winning that fight. Even at the end of that, I remember Lewis at the end, he got up and he just shook his head in dismay, like he lost. Like he thought he was going to lose that fight. And he was so tired from the grind that Latifi put on him when he did the slowest motion, like gorilla chest I've ever seen, because he just had nothing left in him. He controlled Lewis almost 2/3 of that fight, 9 out of 15 minutes, which is very impressive. Now, Lewis, you wouldn't say his takedown defense is good. He's on his back a lot. When that guy wants to just get up, he just says something in his head clicks and he says, "I'm going to get up now." And the guy just gets right up. It's pretty remarkable. But Latifi smothered him, man. And Derek Lewis is massive, not just massive like with his power, because that's what people associate him with. His frame, his shoulders, his neck. The dude's huge. So I think we saw that Roman Greco wrestling base from Latifi, and Latifi was just shoving him to the ground. Like the strength and the raw power of Latifi was just too much for him. So I don't know. Boser has never really faced a guy with a takedown-oriented game plan, I don't think. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see how he fares against being grinded against the cage in the style that he does. He's the type of guy who likes to manage his distance really well. He doesn't like to get up close until he's ready for it. So with Latifi pushing the action, I think it's really interesting. And we've been talking about this, you and I, actually a little bit. And I think there's a lot of value on this dog here. I just, after what we saw out of Bozer last time as a big fave, I can't really recommend backing him with much confidence. And I think Latifi's a live dog here, man. I really, really do.
Yeah, I'm seeing more of the same. But yeah, I get a lot of shit for it, but I kind of like Latifi here. I've been looking at it for some time. And Bozer is just one of those fighters you just don't want to bet as a favorite. He's one of those fighters you want to bet as an underdog. He's burned you time, and as a heavy favorite in his last fight, and he just doesn't have the style that's going to go out there and just knock somebody's head off. He's definitely 110% not getting a knockout here against Latifi. Latifi's got a chin on him. I don't know if anybody's watched him against Lewis. He ate multiple flying knees from the Black Beast. He ate uppercuts. He ate switch kicks. The dude ate everything and still came coming forward. I don't see Bozer putting him away. So it boils down to whether Bozer can just stick and move and stay on the outside for 15 whole minutes without Latifi just getting a hold of him. Because the moment he gets a hold of him, he's taken him to the mat and he's stuck there for 5 minutes. He's not getting back up. There's no way in hell he's getting back up. And I don't see him defending a takedown. We have not seen Bozer actually defend a real takedown against a real wrestler. He's only had to defend 2 takedowns, and there were half-ass takedowns against Ciro Gane and then I think Rafael Pessoa. I think those are only 2. But then if you go back to his regional, he didn't have to defend takedowns at all in majority of his fights. The one time he had to defend takedowns, the one time he got an L, and that was against a combat sambo fighter over at ACB in 2017. He got stuck on his back. He didn't know how to get up. He was stuck there. He didn't shrimp. He didn't use any underhooks. He was just stuck. He didn't know what the hell to do. And that's going to be exactly what's going to happen here if he gets stuck on the mat. It's a big if. You're talking about Latifi. He's 37 years old. He's coming off 3 straight L's. He's coming off the longest layoff in his career, dating back to February of 2020 is the last time he fought. Those are factors to come into this, but I feel like he's got the style to beat Bozer. He just has to get a hold of him, and then I think it should be easy for him to get it to the mat. And, and also I don't like the headspace that Tanner Bozer's at. Tanner Bozer's headspace is, I have to win this fight. If I don't win this fight, I'm getting cut. So he's more worried about getting cut than actually trying to win the fight. So he's really nervous coming into this fight. He's really anxious about coming into this fight because of the fact that he's got a lot of pressure on him. He's like, I got to perform, or I'm going to get cut. And that's not, the greatest headspace to be in. You kind of want to, you have to be relaxed. At least I feel like you have to be relaxed going to the fight. You kind of have to have a clear head. And you just have to be able to just go out there and perform and do your best and not worry about what happens after. You can't worry about what happens after. You have to worry about what happens right now. You have to worry about getting a win, going in there and performing your best to your ability. And don't worry about getting cut or anything of the sort. Don't worry about the aftermath of what happens after. Go in there and get your W. And I feel like that could be his downfall because I think he's going to be very timid of trying to go in there and really land some heavy shots because he feel like if he gets too close to him, he's going to go in, he's going to drop down for a single, he's going to drop down for a double, and then I feel like he's going to be too timid. If he's too timid, Ilia Latifi is just going to be able to bow right through him, get him up against the cage, and just take him for a ride and keep him on the mat. So I'm taking Latifi here, plus 165. I think he's going to cash in as a decent-sized underdog for us.
I love it, man. Love it.
All right. Next up We have a fight in the women's flyweight division between Montana De La Rosa and Ariane Queen of Violence Lipski. Right now, De La Rosa is a minus 270 favorite, and the comeback on Lipski is a plus 230 underdog. De La Rosa 11-6-1, Lipski 13-6. 5'7" for De La Rosa, 5'6" for Lipski, 68-inch reach for De La Rosa, 67-inch reach for Lipski. Who do you got in this one?
Yeah, interesting fight for both perspectives, I think. De La Rosa, a lot of hype coming into her career. She was a tough alum, impressed a lot of people early on. She had to fight Dern and Cavallo back in the day, so that's where those L's come from. What would you say her record overall was?
For Lipski, you said? Or De La Rosa?
For De La Rosa.
11-6-1.
Yeah, so I mean, a couple of those she ran into the buzzsaw, and there's nothing you can do about that. She trains at elevation, so cardio will not be a question. She is one of those slow starters, notoriously. She's definitely the type of person, and this is very, reminiscent of that elevation team, is they start putting it on you in the later rounds. When you get tired, they get stronger, and that's
right.
always a huge advantage for anyone training out of there. She has a wrestling base. She's not the type to use it in the same way like in Esparza would. She's just not on that level, but she does have a good wrestling base, and she can get takedowns. She took down Andrea Lee 5 times. She had 3 against Buena Silva in that recent fight. She's just 1-3 in the last 2 years, but this seems to be like a winnable matchup for her, perhaps. Then you have the Queen of Violence, Lipski, another great camp. She's at ATT. And I think that nickname is one of those appropriate nicknames because she's a fast fighter. She's one of those, she likes violence, she likes action, she pushes the pace. And the drawback to that is that occasionally you expose yourself, i.e. the last fight against Shevchenko. She got KO'd, suffered a facial fracture. I forget exactly how bad it was, but that's always a concern when you're fighting is am I going to re-injure myself? This is a pretty fragile, delicate spot, but pretty common injury, I imagine, for fighters. They get cracked all the time. Her metrics are kind of, hit or miss. Averages 3-6 strikes and absorbs 4. She's definitely not known to be a dynamic striker, but she's exciting. I wouldn't call her super polished. I think the one glaring mismatch here is the offensive takedowns of De La Rosa versus Lipski's brutal takedown defense, and we've seen that tested time and time again. It sits at about 45%, and she's susceptible to that ground game. Like I was saying earlier, Montana does have that wrestling base. It just doesn't shine the same way as some of those other women in MMA do. But I think that's a mismatch. If De La Rosa wants to be smart and she wants to win this fight, there is a path to victory there. It's tough to back her at such a wide line, but I do believe this is a matchup she can win. And I think I would take De La Rosa here.
Yeah, this is definitely a fight I don't want to have my money on. Let's just put that first and foremost. I am definitely not betting on either one of these two. I definitely can't trust them. But De La Rosa, I feel like, is the far more experienced fighter, facing the far better competition. I feel like she's got the better skill set, better all-around skill set. She's not the greatest striker, but it's serviceable, especially when you saw her fight against Araujo. I think she looked decent on the feet there. Surprisingly, she didn't get completely overwhelmed on the feet, and she looked very good against Bueno Silva. And her takedowns are there. Lipski gets taken down, at will. She got taken down at will against Shevchenko. She got taken down at will by McCann. She got taken down at will by Calderwood. I mean, the path to victory is there. Minus 270 is not what I want. I don't want minus 270 on her, but I do have her winning. I just don't. I mean, Lipski's striking is good, but I don't think it's good enough to keep the fight on the feet.
Same.
You talking about De La Rosa's successful on 2.14. She averages 2.14 per 15 minutes on her takedowns. She's only successful on 28%, but the thing is, 28% at 2.14. That means she's attempting around 6 or 7 per fight. So at least she's going in and trying to get takedowns. If she's going for 67 takedowns against Lipsky, she's getting more than just 2 takedowns.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm taking Montana De La Rosa here, but unfortunately, I am not putting my money on her.
It's not a safe bet.
All right. Next up is a very interesting fight, a very good action-packed fight. At 145 pounds between Mr. Finland, Makwan Amirkhani, and Kamwala Kirk, the Jawaian. Right now, the line has shifted. Makwan is a minus 190 favorite. Massive line movement coming in on Mr. Kirk. And Kamwala Kirk is a plus 165 underdog. Amirkhani is 16-5. Kirk is 11-4. 5 for 10 for Mr. Finland, 5 for 10 also for Kirk, 72-inch reach for Amirkhani, 75-inch reach for Kirk. Who do you got in this one?
This is, like you said, this is a very interesting fight. I think there's going to be some weird fireworks. I don't know if it's going to be a really great fight or just a weird fight, but it's going to be entertaining for sure.
I think it's going to be a fantastic fight. I'm super looking forward to it.
Yeah. Cam Eula, Kirk. He's a Contender Series guy. This was 2 years ago, back in 2019. He was only 25 back then. And so, I believe he lost that fight. But you got to think at that age that he's evolved a little bit, of course. First fight under the big lights, that's tough. He went over to LFA, he went 2-1, pretty good account of himself. I like him as a fighter. He's pretty well-rounded. He throws good combos. He mixes in leg kicks to the body, to the head. He'll throw in a flashy flying knee every now and then. I really like his offensive wrestling. He is very, very adequate top control. He's not someone that gives away position. He's not someone that gives up position going for a foolish submission, trying to get a weird reversal or anything. He's just very, very well-rounded in that. He actually just fought and won a month ago. So that is, even if you take no damage, it's still a lot to put yourself through for 2 fight camps in 1 month. He's filling in short notice here. His last fight was Daniel Swain, way expired past his prime, but at the same time, fellow Contender Series alum, has a lot of fighting experience. And when you're young, those are the fights you need. Not that I would put a crazy amount of stock into beating a guy like Daniel Swain in 2021, but like I said, you got to win fights like that to evolve and progress as a fighter. He actually retired the guy, like literally retired him, figuratively and literally. He didn't even get off the stool after round 2. My concern is that he slows down a lot, and that was very evident in that Contender Series fight when he got absolutely bamboozled by Billy Q.
Yeah.
Just laid it on him, man. I mean, she just poured it on him.
If you look at Billy Q's fights, that is his MO.
Sure.
He makes everybody gas out because of the fact that, he lets them go balls to the wall in that first round. He lets them get that advantage in the first round, and then he drowns your ass for rounds 2 and 3. Did it Spike Carlisle? He's done it on the regional scene to a bunch of fighters. So I don't think we can put too much stock into his cardio woes, there. But yeah, but you can go ahead. I was just talking about his cardio.
No, I agree totally. It's a really good point. Is in that particular circumstance, how can you blame him? That Billy Q is just like you said. He eats the damage, he puts it on you, and then he really picks up his pace. And we love Billy Q. We've loved that guy for years since he was a tough guy. So the other thing is that Kirk has never been subbed before. That seems to really be the only way that Amirkhani wins a convincing fight, is that he subs you. So
pretty much.
That will be a very interesting matchup. Mr. Finland, he's 6-3 in the UFC. He's lived up to that hype, and his L's, he's taken some tough L's. Barbosa, Burgos, those are tough L's. No shame in those. Those two just fought an awesome fight against each other, ironically. When he came into the UFC, he was like this big, like, oh my God, he's this wrestling master from Finland, and it really didn't disappoint. This guy, he wants to go for your neck. The problem with him is like some of those wrestlers, he has zero to offer in the stand-up game. If he can't get you down, or he goes for a foolish submission and you reverse it or get a good position on him, he doesn't have much to offer. He's always searching for a submission, which isn't a bad thing if that's your bread and butter. But unlike his opponent, he's not super focused on controlling you. And that, that leaves you susceptible to counter. Or the other thing is the volume. And we've been talking about this all night, I feel like. In 3 rounds versus Barbosa, he threw 11 strikes, or he landed 11 strikes, sorry. In 3 rounds versus Burgos, he lands 22 significant strikes. Those are pretty low numbers. I think cardio, definitely, unlike his opponent, I think we can definitely say for sure the guy lacks cardio.
Right.
And if he doesn't sub you in round 1 or early in round 2, it's kind of like, well, what does he have left? I cannot help but like this dog. I think it might be an actual play for me. And, the line movement, it's never encouraging to see, like, everybody love the dog that you like and you think you're super sharp about it and everyone's, like, hammering it. But I think it's right. I think people see value on this line, and I think that's why you see it shifting towards Kirk a little bit.
I agree. I'm actually on the dog here. I took Kamuela Kirk at plus 200. It's come down a lot since then. But
Nice.
I made a play on him there. I think it was too wide. I still think it's a little too wide. I know Amir Khani, he's fought top-notch competitors. He's lost only to top-notch competitors, but he has 0 wins over current UFC fighters. He has 0 wins. And I think he definitely lost the fight against Jason Knight as well. His striking is basically non-existent. For however long this fight is on the feet, he's getting fucked up. Kirk is a very good striker. Very, very good striker. He's going to be the one pressing forward. He's the one going to be look at the push the pace, push the pressure. In last fight, he actually fought at 155 pounds. So he's going to be the bigger fighter. He's going to be the stronger fighter. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He doesn't get taken down. Billy Q couldn't take him down. He went 0 for 3 on his takedown attempts. So if he's able to defend the takedowns or get up and not get choked out by, the Anaconda chokes by Amir Khani, who has 2 Anaconda chokes in his career, in his UFC career, which I believe is one of the, I think, like, 3rd most in UFC history as well. So as long as he cannot get subbed here, he should have this fight in the bag, in my opinion. As long as he doesn't gas, as long as he gets back up and defends takedowns, he has this fight. This fight is his, because on the feet, Amir Khani has absolutely nothing for him. Amir Khani has been knocked down 5 times in his UFC career.
He probably will again.
He absolutely will. He absolutely will, because Kirk has really good power. He's got back-to-back knockouts in his last 2 fights. He was putting a beating on Billy Q in that first round in the Contender Series as well. So, I mean, if you look at it, the dude has real skill, and he should be in the UFC. I know he's 11-4. He's coming in this fight on short notice, just a week's notice, but he's got the skills to get the upset here. He's got the skills, to show that he's someone to be, to be reckoned with in the featherweight division. So I'm looking forward to this fight a lot, and I'm pretty high on this dog here. That's another dog that I'm on this card. I'm on a couple dogs here. So this is number 2. I got one more dog coming up as well.
Love it, man. Love it. It's awesome.
All right. Especially on a 14 fight card, I think we're gonna get a decent amount of dogs coming out.
Yeah, I can think of 2 that I'm already betting 100% off my head.
I got 3 in my bag right now. So
I like it.
all right, so this is our first fight on the main card, and it's a fight at 185 pounds between Tom Breese and Antonio Arroyo. Right now, Breese is a minus 240 favorite in the comeback. On Arroyo is a plus 200 underdog. Tom Breese is 12-3. Arroyo is 9-4. 6-3 for Breese, 6-3 for Arroyo. 73.5 reach across the board. Who do you got in this fight?
Yeah, this is another one of those fights. I feel like this card is littered with interesting storylines from both sides. Breeze is wrestling jiu-jitsu expert. He's out of England. He's a black belt. They used to call this guy the octopus because he was so difficult to grapple with in training. It seemed like he was sprouting extra hands when you were trying to sub him or he was trying to sub you. He has slick submissions. He's really difficult to grapple with, as I said. He doesn't use his wrestling as offensively as I would prefer. You could be a great striker, but man, if you can really mix that wrestling in and control the pace and dictate the pace like that, it goes a long way in the octagon. This is one of those guys. He had a lot of hype coming into the promotion. He wins 3 in a row, 2 by knockout, 1 unanimous decision. Then he runs into our boy, the Sean Strickland Express. He takes the L, but no shame there. That guy is super talented. He had a big layoff. He came back 2 years later and he KOs Daniel Kelly. It's another, like we were saying about the last fight, it's not one of those wins that you feel great about, but it's one of those wins you got to do. He's kind of like a stepping stone, fought a lot of competition, has a lot of experience. So, a good win for Brees, who's young at the time and starting to develop and, get some wins under his belt. And then all of a sudden this anxiety problem hits him and the mental health issues, they just kind of start piling up. He pulls out of a fight in London, I believe, which is, I don't know if that was the pressure of fighting in front of the home crowd, but, most people prefer to be in a non-hostile environment when they're fighting, and he couldn't even do it. So he comes back and he gets the matchmakers do him 0 favors. He gets Brendan Allen. He gets pieced up. I don't even know if he makes it out of that first round. I think he gets finished in the first round, but either way, that's a really tough matchup. You have mental health issues. You cite your anxiety and how you're having trouble battling yourself in your own head, and then you get Brendan Allen, who is an absolute animal. So that's not, that's kind of here nor there. He gets a super easy win over Bular, who doesn't.
That's true.
That last fight against Akhmedov just really bullies him around. Just the strength and the aggression of Akhmedov was just way too much for him. He survives the first round after basically being on his back and getting pounded on the entire time. He ends up towards the end reversing position, gets Akhmedov's neck, and he just can't finish him. I think he had like 40 seconds left, but if that was mid-round, we may have seen like a way different outcome. But anyway, the bell saved him there. So I like this kid. It's really tough. When you look at things and you weigh them on paper, it's like, okay, is this guy a good striker? Is he a good wrestler? Like, how's his jiu-jitsu? How's his takedown defense? Now we're battling variables you can't really like take into account, like his mental state. So like, how are we supposed to handicap what his head is like going into this? I think this is his fight to lose. I don't have a lot to say about Arroyo. I'm not a fan of him. That last fight against Ron Win, it was one of the grossest performances I've ever seen. His takedown defense is 32%, albeit most of those came in that Win fight because he got taken down like 12 times or whatever the number was. Brees doesn't, like I said, he's not the type to exploit it with his offensive wrestling. If he wants to implement that, this would be an easy fight for him. Take the guy down, wear him out, watch him gas out. It's tough to back Brees with any sort of confidence, but I like the guy, and I think I'm going to have him burn me one more time before I really get off the train.
Yeah, man, this is a tough one. Especially you really can't trust Brees. He's super inconsistent, especially in fights that you kind of want to take him in. I mean, especially the Allen fight. He had the advantage in the striking, but he just couldn't keep it on the feet. And there's not much there. I mean, he's got power. He would have been so much better if he was able to just stay at 170 because he was just massive for the weight class. He had exceptional power. And I think his grappling would have translated a lot better there because he's not facing, guys like Akhmedov or Brendan Allen, guys that can actually grapple with him. And then Arroyo, he's on a 2-fight skid, but I've listened to his interviews and what he's saying is right. He's saying everything right. He's like, I can't game plan against short notice opponents. Sure. I can't game plan against opponent changes. He's like, I've had my last 2 fights been changed numerous times. And then I'm going against a striker. Then I'm going against a Olympic wrestler, and then I'm going against a striker. Then I'm going against a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He's like, I can't catch a break. But now, it seems like he's getting his head, in the right place. He's now at Jackson Wink in Albuquerque in altitude to work on his, his cardio woes. His grappling is not bad whatsoever. He didn't get tapped against Muniz when they fought, so I think that's a very good sign there. I honestly believe he would have a decent grappling advantage here, to be honest with you. But it's really hard to really trust either one of these guys with your money. But if I'm trying to pick a winner here, and as far as the betting lines go, I can't take Breeze at minus 240. I just can't do it. I feel like taking Arroyo at plus 200 might be the smarter play, just because of the value you get, and I don't think Arroyo is as bad as people making him out to be. After looking at the tape, he's still a good kickboxer, and his grappling is a lot underrated. I mean, he's multiple submission wins under his belt. He's got the wrestling, and the only person that's really been taking him down and controlling him was Deron Wynn, and he got back up 12 times. So I don't see a ton of grappling happening, and I'm pretty sure Arroyo has never been knocked out. So I feel on the feet it's going to be competitive. I feel in the grappling it's going to be competitive. And in a fight with Tom Breeze where it's competitive, I'd rather take the dog at plus 200 odds. So
yeah, these are two very fadeable guys that in the past year or two have been fadeable. So it's a tough call. It's good we're on the opposite side. We got to give people something to think about sometimes. So.
Yeah, this is just one of those fights where it's just like I just can't get around, betting on either one of these two, especially betting on Tom Breeze at minus 230, 240. That's just an asinine line. I know he's won fights in the past, but I mean, the guys, the only two wins he's had in his last 5 are KB Bular and Daniel Kelly. Neither one of them is with the promotion. Daniel Kelly was 38, right. I think 38 at the time. Yep. So his wins weren't really impressive. They were wins that he definitely should win. He definitely should not lose those fights. So coming into this fight he definitely should win. But I don't know. I can't trust him.
Fair enough. Good points.
All right. Next up, we have a fight in the middleweight division between Dushko Todorovic and Gregory Rodriguez. RoboCop. Right now, the line, a lot of money's been coming in on my man RoboCop. Right now, Todorovic is a minus 130 favorite, and Rodriguez is a plus 110 underdog. Todorovic 10-1, Rodriguez 9-3. 6'1" for Todorovic, 6'3" for Rodriguez, 74-inch reach for Todorovic, 76-inch reach for Rodriguez. Who do you got in this one?
Yeah, I don't have a great read on this. These are tough to read for me. I know that you have a solid read on this, so I'll be quick and let you get to it. These are two guys with massive striking and big power in their hands. They both looked pretty bad their last fight. I guess the under. What's the under at? You don't think so?
I'm saying Rodriguez just won his last fight.
He did?
By knockout. As a plus 210 underdog to capture the LFA middleweight title.
Oh, that's right.
And I actually was very, very impressed with that win as well.
Yeah, that seems to be... yeah, that's right. Okay. Anyway, so I think the under is kind of a square play here. I don't know what the odds
It doesn't matter if it's square as long as it wins, right?
It seems like both these guys hold their heads pretty high and they like to throw massive bombs at each other. So I think it was about even money the last that I saw for 1.5. And not that this is a great betting spot for me, but that's probably what I would pick. I think someone's going to get sat down, and it could be your boy Gregory.
It's possible.
That sits down Dusko. He really could. Dusko has a win over Pereira way back in the day, so he has some good competition. He did just get violently KO'd a few months ago, I thought, and I wonder... Not
too long ago, right? Like 3-4 months ago?
About 4 months, and I wonder how much improvement, you can really see in that span of time, especially coming off a brutal loss. He doesn't seem to have great striking defense, and I think Rodriguez might be a little better in the small sample size that I've seen in the UFC. I'd have to check, some of his other promotions in their fights, but coupled with the durability issue of Dusko, I do think Rodriguez is a good play. RoboCop, man, he is jacked. And he's a world champion in jiu-jitsu, but for some odd reason he doesn't like using it. He just wants to go in and throw absolute bombs. So I think it would suit him well to maybe try to find a takedown or try to find a sub against Dusko. But I think this is going to be a striking paradise type fight where we see two guys just throwing bombs at each other. He hasn't subbed anyone in years, right. Even though he's a Brazilian champion. So just interesting fight here, and you can tell us a little bit about more why you like the dog.
Oh yeah, Zachary, you can check out my best bets over at the Fight Analyst YouTube channel. It's called The Money Plays. I got my best bets there, but we will also give our best bets towards the end of this show. So just stick around, and we'll give you that little tidbit at the end of the show.
Zach's my boy. He's Zach is a sharp himself, so it's nice to have him.
Welcome, Zach. Thank you for coming and joining us here. But we'll get to our best bets towards the end of the show here. We just got a couple more fights to get through, and then we'll give that right over to you. So as far as this fight goes, I'm not extremely confident, but I really do like Gregory Rodriguez here, man. I love RoboCop. He's master for the division. He's much bigger than Dushko, a lot bigger. I know it's only 2 inches, but we're talking about like actual mass and muscle. Yeah. You know, his build, his power. I think it's much more than Dushko. We've seen that Dushko gets hit. We've seen it. He fights with his hands down against hands down, chin up, moving around, trying to bob and weave with his head. If Rodriguez can't get a read on him, if he can't, cut off the cage, it could cause a problem for him. He could get knocked out because, Dushko comes in with, he throws different angles. He throws head kicks. He's very agile. He's very quick on his feet. And, Rodriguez is more of a come forward, put the pace, put the pressure on his fighters and just kind of, and throw bombs. But he doesn't throw wild hooks like Soriano does. And he's got the reach advantage, so he doesn't need to throw wild hooks to catch him, to land the strikes. All you got to do is just put him down, with a straight right. And that's what sat him down with Soriano. Soriano sat him down with a straight left. So I think those straight punches down the pipe, instead of those winging hooks that Soriano wasn't able to get, I think it's going to put him out, because when you're ducking your head back, those winging punches, they'll come right through. But the straight punches are coming straight in your face. So you duck back, it's still going to hit you. So I feel, he's got the massive power advantage, and it just boils down to his cardio, and it boils down to him being able to cut off the angles and get in the face of Dushko and just let his hands go. And if Dushko goes in and tries to get a grapple game on, like he did against Takan Townsend, like he did against Teddy Ash, that's definitely not the avenue to victory against somebody like Gregory Rodriguez, who's never been submitted and who is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt himself. So yeah, I'm taking the dog here. I got it at plus 140. Unfortunately, it's down to plus 110 now, but I still think he's still a good play here, plus 110. I liked him coming in. I think it's a good winnable matchup for him. Dushko's still pretty young. He's only 27 years old. I just don't think in the short amount of time since his last fight getting knocked out, he really changed much about him, about his game. He's still going to come in there, hands down, chin up, and trying to avoid power punches from, ducking out of the way. He's not going to block it. So I'm taking Rodriguez here. And plus, he's training over here in Stanford MMA. So I think it's definitely helped him. I think he leveled up a ton since his Contender Series fight. So yeah, I'm on Rodriguez here, and I think he gets his UFC debut win. And mind you, a little fact: they were supposed to fight each other on the regional scene.
I remember reading that. Yeah,
in Germany, I think not too long ago. So they're very familiar with each other.
You've got some good closing line value on those dogs. I think you're beating the line on both of them.
Well, I got it early. I mean, we're talking about, we had a week off. So since we have a week off, we're able to get these lines a lot earlier, because the money's not going to come in until later in the week, like it did right now. Look, we're at Thursday, and we see money coming in on Kirk. We see money coming in on Latifi. We see money coming in on Rodriguez. Those are my 3 dogs. And money's been pouring in on those three because we're already at Thursday and we're almost at the weigh-ins. So
those lines are just too wide. They're all too wide. Even if it's a coin flip, there's so much value on betting a dog there. And as a gambler and handicapper, it's all about beating that line value, win or lose. You always want to beat that closing line. So you set yourself up pretty good so far for this week.
Absolutely, man. And this is an absolute banger. Probably the best fight on the entire fight card. This is going to be absolutely nuts. I'll fight in the welterweight division between Santiago Ponzinibbio and the surging, rising star in Miguel Caramel Thunder Baeza. I'm very, very excited for him. Right now, the line set at Baeza is a minus 120 favorite, and the comeback of Ponzinibbio is plus 100 underdog. 27-4 for Ponzinibbio, 10-0 for Baeza. 6 feet for Ponzinibbio, 6'2" for Baeza, 73-inch reach for Ponzinibbio, 74.5-inch reach for Baeza. Who you got?
Oh man, this is a very interesting fight. Another interesting storyline fight with Ponzinibbio taking some time off, but really he's had great success in the octagon. KO'd Neil Magny, not something that's easily done. He beat Mike Perry. Not that that's a massive win, especially considering how Mike Perry's been, but the guy's a brawler, and he's going to push the pace, and being able to beat him and manage that bull rush from Perry, it says a lot. This guy beat Sean Strickland a while ago, and we were just talking about how high we are on him and how well he's been doing lately. So these fights are years ago. I don't know how much stock you can put into them. Since then, he's had a lot of health complications. He was in the hospital. He had a bone infection. He almost lost an eye, according to the story. So he's had some tough goes. He was doing commentary for the UFC South American broadcast for a while. I don't know, in those years off, was he really training? Was he keeping up with his fitness? Or is he kind of just, in that idle life? I was recently checking out his Instagram. He seems like he's at ATT and he's getting a lot of work in. He looks like he's pretty ripped coming into this fight. He's only fought once in the last 2 or 3 years. He looked pretty horrible in that particular fight. I don't know if that's more of him looking bad and all that ring rust, or it's, Li Zhang really just looking like a stud. But the ring rust is real, especially for someone that's been out of the game that long. He kind of looked a little slow. Looked like his striking defense wasn't there like it used to be. He got mauled with the left hand at the end of round 1 and just went out like a light. But he has that. You can't just totally ignore everything he's done in the game. I think he's very dangerous if he's focused. And now that he does have that fight under his belt, should see a better version of himself. He's still 34. That's a little older considering his injury history, but that's still he's not like 37 or 42 like some of these other guys we've been talking about. Baeza, I absolutely love. I've been on him every fight that has a decent line to bet on him. I love this kid, the Caramel Thunder, they call him. He's at MMA Masters. He's getting some good work in. His striking is awesome, and I think that's what people get really excited about when they see him fighting. But this guy's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Very polished striker. Most of his finishes are KOs, and again, that's where the sneaky jiu-jitsu comes in. So you don't want to sleep on that because, his last win was that arm triangle choke. It's a pretty forgiving strength of schedule, but he's getting the job done when he needs to. And that's something that we talk about a lot. You can't really control, A, being green in the UFC, or B, who you're fighting so much. But it's more about how you handle that as it comes. And he's getting stoppages, 3 stoppages, 1 unanimous decision win. So he's beating the people he's supposed to beat. That first fight on Contender Series against Reina, that was a pretty sweaty one. If he doesn't knock him down a couple times, I don't think he wins. And that may have drastically changed the trajectory of this young kid's career. But, for him to rally back and to get those knockdowns, being a young kid, contract on the line, it says a lot about how he can kind of handle the adversity. We're not going to put a lot of stock into the Aldana win. That guy loses to everybody pretty much. But like I said, you can't control that. You just have to go out and execute your game plan the way you're supposed to do it. Beats an aging Matt Brown. Baeza has a close first round, and then he just takes over and lays it on him. The other thing is that he's KOing people early. It's not like he just got this KO at the end of the fight and, just happened to be in the right place at the right time. He's going after people. He just fought Sato, and that was definitely the biggest challenge to date for him. He looks pretty good, mixing in some strikings, mixes in some kicks. He finds a submission in the second round, and again, that's what I was talking about, how he has that sneaky jiu-jitsu ability. Very accurate. Round 2, he pieces him up, hits 60% plus of his SIG strikes. He's really green, and this could be a spot where everybody gets really high on that. The young stud who's a small favorite, and then the vet comes in and just, really gives him a rude awakening. Oh, man, this is a really tough fight to call. I think I'd rather enjoy it from a fan's perspective instead of putting some money on it. Gun to my head, I take the young kid and I ride the rocket all the way to the top, but I don't love this fight from a betting perspective. I love everything else about it.
Yeah, I agree as well. I really want to place a bet on Miguel Baeza, but this is pretty a massive step up in competition from Takashi Sato to, and Matt Brown to Ponzinibbio. So, but, we look at Ponzinibbio and, 26-month layoff. He looked terrible in his last fight. He got brutally knocked out. I think that was that was his first loss since 2015, I believe. First time he got knocked out in forever, almost half a decade as well. So those are, pretty telling things. He didn't look right. His movement didn't look great. He didn't look in the best shape. I mean, first fight back, those things kind of happen. I feel like we're going to see a lot better fighter out of him. He's going to bring the fight to Baeza. That's for certain.
So too.
He's going to come forward. He's going to push the pace, put the pressure on Baeza, try to break him. And we forget that Brown did drop Baeza at one point, or rocked him at least.
Yep.
So, you have to take that into account. Ponzinibbio still has hands. He's still got hands. And if he can show that he still got it, he could definitely get back into the win column here and give Baeza, his first professional loss. But on the flip side, if if the wear and tear has gotten to him, if the infection got to him, if all these things piled up over the the 2.5 years that he was out, he could be in for one hell of a knockout coming up against Miguel Baeza. He's the young gun. He's got the tools. He's got the jiu-jitsu credentials. He's got the striking. His calf kicks. He comes from my MMA masters, so those calf kicks are they're ready to go, firing on all cylinders. So it's going to be an interesting fight. It's going to be exciting from from start to finish, whenever it finishes. But I think I'm just gonna kind of stay clear from betting in this one. I think it's too close to call. But if I'm giving a winner, I think I'm gonna go with Miguel Baeza. I think it's still a decent line. If you like Baeza, you still get a good line on him at -120.
Yep, totally.
All right.
Couple more. We got 2 or 3.
We got 3 more left. This is a very long.
We're grinding it out.
We're almost there, guys. We're almost there. Just stick with us. All right. Our next fight up is in the middleweight division between Roman Dolidze and Laureano Staropoli. Right now, Dolidze is a -145 favorite, and the comeback on Staropoli is a +125 underdog. Dolidze is 8-1, Staropoli 9-3. 6-2 for Dolidze, 6-1 for Staropoli, 76-inch reach for Dolidze, 71.5-inch reach for Staropoli. Who do you got in this one?
Yeah, Dolidze, he's a fun fighter. He's been fun to watch. He's entertaining, vibrant, definitely got a big personality. He's part of that Georgian wave that's taken over, Marab, Giga. And it's been fun to watch all those guys. And they're definitely making some noise in the UFC for sure. It's another one of these guys, amazing grappler, very low volume on the feet. He was a grappling champion in Europe, went on to MMA, started a little bit later, but still looks like he has a pretty good skill set overall. 3 SIG strikes per minute, absorbing just 1.75. So it's efficient striking. The volume is definitely not there. The defense is pretty good. I think people sometimes get leery of jumping in on him because they're so likely to be taken down or muscled out by him. He does some, he's not very dynamic as a striker, but he does throw some interesting, back fists, kicks, etc. like that. He likes to mix in some unorthodox moves. So as low volume as he is, he can catch you by surprise occasionally with something flashy like that. He won his first 2 UFC fights, probably two of the biggest cans in the business between Cadiz and John Allen. He lost that last fight to Trevin Giles. That was a really weird fight. A lot of people were intrigued by that decision. Do you have Giles winning that, or do you have Delici winning it?
It was close. I think he kind of screwed himself towards the end, going for his heel hooks.
Yeah,
so
agree. Totally agree.
I think Giles kind of edged it out just slightly at the end.
Yeah. So anyway, it seems like the judges don't like that style that he has. He's like kind of slow and prodding. He likes to hold you down. He's a grappler. He doesn't throw a whole lot of volume. And the judges, especially lately, they don't score that as high as they used to. They want to see damage. They want to see volume, and those are things that Delici doesn't necessarily offer all the time. Is he dropping down a weight class?
Well, since his last fight, no, because they were both at 185.
Okay.
But he used to be a light heavyweight.
That's right. Okay. Anyway, I'm expecting a pretty good version of him this time around. He's going to be the much bigger fighter. And when you're a grappler and you want to muscle someone around, that's what you want to see. I'm a little concerned about the gas tank and the volume as the fight goes on, but I think this is his fight to lose. Moving on to Staropoli. This guy's a decision machine. 2-2 in the UFC. They've all gone to decision. Great cardio, great chin, quality output, which certainly gives him an advantage over Roman because Roman just doesn't throw it as much as he does. If we're looking at the SIG strikes, 3 SIG strikes landed for Roman, up to almost 4.5 for Laureano. So they say that he's training with Oliveira, and you and I were talking about this earlier. I don't see that anymore.
No, he's not. He
was
at least
in camp in Argentina, no?
Yeah, no, he hasn't been training with Oliveira at least for this fight. People were talking about Argentina is in super lockdown mode, so I'm pretty sure he's not able to, go out, go and train at other countries and come back to his family. So he wanted to kind of stay close to home, and and train there in Buenos Aires, and
Sure.
That's where he's been for the last months or so. So
Right.
He hasn't been getting any Shudo box training in. That's for sure.
Yeah, so I think the path to victory is clear. I don't think Staropoli can defend those takedowns for the whole fight against a much bigger fighter. I think if Delici can just stop going for crazy, exciting submissions and he just controls his opponent, that's really his path to victory. If he gives up position and he somehow gets reversed or lets his opponent back up to his feet too often, he's going to have a hard time because he will tire and slow down. If that guy could just hold his opponent instead of trying to find a miracle sub, he would be a very, very dangerous fighter. But I got to ride with Georgia here, man. I got to do it. I think he's got more to offer. I think he's got a higher ceiling. And I'd like to see him get a win here. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a tough matchup because the fight IQ for Delici has not been the best. He's fought fights a lot closer than they shouldn't be.
Sure.
He does have the massive size advantage here, being as he's a former lightweight and Staropoli is a former welterweight, taking his fight on short notice, just about a week's notice, up a weight class, 185 pounds. But I think Staropoli was already growing into 185, so I don't think it's going to be severely undersized as far as strength goes. I just think as far as height and reach, he does have an advantage there. He's at a massive disadvantage as far as volume goes.
Yeah.
So he's pretty much going to have to take this fight to the mag, get a submission, or hold it there. He can take him down. Staropoli, he's been taken down a ton in his career. He doesn't take defend takedowns well, but he's not been controlled when getting taken down. He's been able to get right back up.
Yep.
So
that could be a problem.
Exactly. So it really boils down to is if Delici is able to just get him down, keep him down, where Delici has not been able to do that yet. So
that's crazy, man.
That's where it lies.
I
know that's where lies the problem. That's where it's kind of making me hesitant, to have a play on him, where I think he should probably, he should win. He's got the massive grappling advantage. You're talking about, like I said, Sharpoli got taken down 5 times in his last 2 fights, and that was against Muslim Salikov and Tim Means, who are both strikers.
Yep.
So, he's only able to defend 5 out of 11 takedowns. That's only 55% takedown defense in his last 2 fights and his last 2 losses. So the avenue of victory is there for Roman. It's just, can he get it done? Can he keep it on the mat? Can he not be stupid going for dumb submissions? We will see. I'm probably not going to bet on this, but if I'm taking it, I feel like I got to take Roman at minus 145. I think it's still a good line. It's just, I'm worried about him just doing dumb shit. So if he doesn't do dumb shit, he should win. But we're not in there fighting. We're trying to cap, and it's hard to cap when fighters do dumb shit. So.
Ain't that the truth, bro?
I mean, we can only do so much on our side, and when it comes to fighters doing dumb shit, that's out of our realm.
Yep.
All right, we're finally up to our co-main event, and it's going to be it's a banger between 2 big heavyweights, between Walt Harris and Marcin Tybura. Right now, Tybura is a minus 175 favorite, and Walt Harris is a plus 155 underdog. Harris is 13-9. Tybura is 21-6. Harris is 6'5". Tybura is 6'3". 81-inch reach for Harris. 78 reach for Tybura. Who do you got?
Yeah, this is going to be interesting, and it should be fun. I don't have a whole lot to say about Walt that people don't already know. I love the guy. It's hard not to like him. Obviously, he went through that tragedy, and everyone in that community really rallied around him, and that was really nice to see. The sad part about him is that his skill set is just declining quickly. He's always been a boomer bust type of guy, and as he gets older, I think that it's a lot less boom and a lot more bust at this stage. You'd think the way that he pours it on people sometimes, his striking differential would be a bit better, but it's in the negative. Very good takedown defense, 72%. I don't think he's ever been tested before over the full course of the fight the way that Tybura is going to test him. And as we know, round 1 or 2, he gets a KO and he wins. If not, he usually loses, either gets knocked out or he would lose a decision there. So, yeah, I think it's, like I said, it's really boomer bust for Walt. I think Tybura here is probably the wrong guy to have a boomer bust mentality against. This guy's won 4 fights in a row. Even his losses are okay losses. Sakai, he has a very high trajectory right now. He's fighting in the main event. Lost to Derek Lewis. Lost to the legend Verdum back in the day. He took that fight on short notice. This guy, and this is what I love about him, he is not one to deviate from his game plan very much. He wants to take you down. He wants to grind you out. Even his striking numbers are good, though. We were just talking about Walt striking and being a negative differential. And Tybura, not known for a striker, his defense is pretty good and he's slightly positive. So I love to see that. You never take this guy down. He's 80+% on his takedown defense, and he's averaging almost 2 takedowns a fight, 1.6. I could kind of see this going similar to the way that the Hardy fight would go, and I'd like to give the nod to Harris there as far as experience and overall skill set. I think it's kind of going to be a similar game plan for Tybura: wear you down, grind you out, make you tired, look for that finish. Like Delisi, we were just talking about how inactive he can be, and he lets you out of the strong position that he has. Tybura is not like that. The path to victory for Tybura is very clear here. It could be a really boring decision, but Tybura, if he gets you down and wears you out enough, I think he might finish it. I don't think Walt really has the get up to do that for 15 minutes. I don't know if he has to get up to do that for 5 minutes. So what do you have that line at right now, if you don't mind me asking?
For a finish?
Yeah, just the money line in general. But
the money line is minus 175.
Okay, so I think that's good value. I love Marcin. It's just the type of guy that I like to bet on. What is a finish for him?
Oh, that's a good question.
If you have it, if not, it's okay.
No, it's got to be up there. Give me a second. Hold on. It's just for him to win inside the distance, only plus 185.
Interesting so how there's some value there.
Yeah, it's plus 185, almost plus 200.
Yeah. So I think we're getting a quality line here on Marcin. I don't know if it's the love for Walt or a little bit of the hype. I don't think his skill set matches up great against Tybura. Unless we see like a crazy KO, I don't see any way that Walt can win this fight. It is interesting to note Tybura's never fought a southpaw before. And, I don't know how much weight you could put into that, but it's just an interesting note. Different styles, different approaches. Will he be able to execute the way that he executes facing someone's in a different stance? But I like Tybura. I can't bet Walt with any type of confidence.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm actually taking a shot on Walt by KO.
I like it, dude. I like it.
By KO at plus 300. Plus 300.
Okay.
I mean, the way Walt wins is by knockout.
Sure.
So you're giving me a guy that has knockout power in both of his hands at plus 300 against a guy that's been knocked out in each of his last 2 losses. Each of his last 3 losses.
All 3 of them, yeah.
All 3 of them by knockout. Augustus Sakai, who doesn't knock out anybody.
Not a knockout artist.
Got a knockout. Shamil Abdurakhimov, knockout. Doesn't knock out anybody. And then obviously Derek Lewis, he knocks out everybody. But
sure, that one.
With that said, there is a path to victory for Walt Harris, and I know everybody's writing him off, but his last 2 losses, I mean, Alistair Overeem knocked him down, should have finished him.
He had him.
I'm sorry, but the ref should have called that fight. He should have won that fight. And then, against Alexander Volkov, that was just a bad stylistic matchup. Yeah, Volkov can, outstrike anybody in the heavyweight division.
He's the most technical striker in that division.
So that was just a bad, a very, very bad stylistic matchup. But then you look at the last 2 fights for Tybura. He let Greg Hardy tee off on him in round 1.
He did.
50 strikes landed in that round and a half. And then he let Ben Rothwell tee off on him in round 1, and he landed 89 strikes. So you have 139 strikes between Ben Rothwell and Greg Hardy in 1.5 fights. That's not great. If he lets Harris go in and land on him in that first round, Harris can put him away. I'm not saying it's a slam dunk type of bet, but you're giving me Walt Harris by knockout, which is the way he wins all his fights, by plus 300. I'm taking a shot at that dog. That's just a crazy line that you're giving me. Plus 300 on a guy that wins all of his fights by knockout, at least majority of them, and then against a guy the last 3 losses all by knockout, and 2 of the last 3 are against guys that weren't knockout artists. Yeah, I'm taking Walt Harris and taking a shot on him and not being a completely washed away. But we'll see what happens. Maybe he gets weathers the early storm like he did against Hardy, like he did against Ben Rothwell. But I don't think Hardy and Rothwell have the power, that Walt Harris possesses. I really don't. So, all right,
sharp take. It's a sharp take.
We're finally up to the main event of the evening. In a fight at heavyweight, another heavyweight fight between Jairzinho Rozenstruik and Augusto Sakai. Right now, the line is close to a pick'em. Minus 120 for Rozenstruik and plus 100 on the underdog for Sakai. Right now, Rozenstruik is 11-2, Sakai 15-2-1, 6'4" for Rozenstruik, 6'3" for Sakai, 78 reach for Rozenstruik, and 77-inch reach for Sakai. Who do you got?
Man, it's interesting. This is a very close fight, like overall, I think, and I think the odds makers agree there, obviously, because it's such a close line. Rozenstruik looked very good when he came into the UFC, winning all his fights pretty decidedly by KO. None of these fights even make it out of the second round, except for that Walt Harris Hail Mary, or not the Walt Harris, the Overeem Hail Mary that he threw. Man, that counter left that he throws when he's landing it effectively and people are susceptible to it, that thing is a weapon. The other thing about his strength of schedule is he's never been really given a can, which so many people are, especially in the heavyweight division, because they love the excitement of it. They give you people, they see violent knockouts, people get hyped. He was never given like a real easy assignment. Now, none of these guys are like, well, some of them are, but a couple of them aren't world beaters, but 14-4. 10-3. Arlovsky, obviously, he's 28-18, but that guy's fought everybody. It's great experience. And then Overeem, of course, who's fought 100 fights. But he's never been given like a 5-5 guy or like a 5-4 guy, or never had like this call-up guy out of nowhere off the couch to come fight. He's always had to work for those wins. And then he runs into Francis, and we all know how that goes. He had a great performance against JDS. His kickboxing was on point. His stand-up was good. He was throwing those counters. I think we can both agree, we're seeing the end of JDS, but still, to get a win against a guy of that caliber with that type of experience is great. Well, this has been the theme of the night, though, is the volume. And the judges hate watching a guy with such low output. And especially just like later on, it's just like he just doesn't throw with any urgency. You expect him to say, okay, well, he's down a round. He's going to come out firing. He doesn't. He's down 2 rounds. He's going to come out firing. He doesn't until the last second when he destroys Overeem. But that's the only fight in his career that he's landed more than 42 strikes. Except, the Overeem fight is the outlier. He threw 89, landed 89 6 strikes there. He hasn't landed more than 42 in any other's fight. So for some weird perspective, he lands 42 strikes against JDS in just 2 rounds. But then he also landed just 42 exactly after going 5 rounds with Cyril Gane. So it's just, what is the outlier? Is the outlier the heavy output, or is the outlier the weak output? And I kind of feel like the heavy output is the outlier for him. It's just not his style. He's a counterattacker. He wants to kickbox with his countering skills. And there's a lot of focus about his lack of activity, and I wonder if that is going to inspire him and change his camp and his mentality a little bit. We could see him come out with a lot more urgency, and I think we'd see a much more successful version of him if he did that. Sakai, he's a fun fighter. He's got some good wins. Tybura, Arlovsky, we've talked about them a lot. And then Blagoy Ivanov, of course. He's a pretty well-traveled guy. Had a 5-fight win streak in the UFC, screeching Hall, Overeem KOs. Prior to that, he had some good wins. Some split decisions over some veterans and some KOs over some people. And for a younger fighter, those are good wins. Those are good wins. Neither one of these guys is going to attempt a takedown. I mean, we can obviously understand this is going to primarily take place on the feet. Sakai's interesting. He's sneaky athletic. He never looks like he's in great shape, being such a big guy, carries a lot of weight. But he's agile for a big guy, man. He's able to, when he wants to, he closes the distance pretty quickly. He throws those combos. He gets you against the cage. He likes to rip your body with those leg kicks. Then he bull rushes you with your hands when you're not really ready for it. He throws knees. He's got strong in the clinch. Pretty complete stand-up fighter overall. I wouldn't describe him as elite, but I think he is a good stand-up fighter. He has a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. You never see him use it. By the metrics, 5.3 strikes thrown to 4 absorbed. So he has a high volume, and he does have a nice differential compared to Rozenstruik's metrics, 3.14 to 3.48. And that's kind of disappointing. But again, all we've talked about is how low volume the guy is. So he can crack you and hurt you pretty hard. It's just he's looking for that big shot. And sometimes you can, die out waiting for that opportunity to come if it doesn't come. And so I wonder, will he be able to use those counter and kickboxing skills against the aggression of Sakai? How is that going to look? Oh man, what's the over under looking like on this one if you have it up?
1.5 rounds at minus 170.
Jeez. Man, it's tough to find value on this fight, I feel like. I don't know if you agree with that or not. I would probably take Sakai if I had to take someone, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I'm going with I'm gonna go with Sakai. I'm gonna keep this short and sweet. This is pretty much how it's gonna go down. Rozenstruik needs a knockout, period.
Yeah.
And the round winner is Sakai, period. So if this goes to decision, don't think that Rozenstruik is gonna even come close to winning a decision, unless he has some crazy fight where he just doubles up his volume out of fucking nowhere. Which I can't see happening, because if he does that, he's going to gas himself out even more. And I think Sakai could possibly put him away. And that's kind of why I kind of feel like he has such low volume, because he doesn't want to gas out. And I kind of understand that. But Sakai is the round winner in this fight, and Rozenstruik is the knockout winner. So that's what it boils down to. And I'm always going to pick a round winner that's shown that has decent chin over a guy that's literally a one-punch knockout artist and that can only win by knockout. So I'm going to go with Sakai here. I'm not extremely confident, but I feel like he can do enough to win and stay out of harm's way at the same time. So that's what I got.
My battery's dying out there, so I had to take the headphones off. But.
No, you're good. No, so that's what we got on the main card, and that is our breakdown for UFC Vegas 28. Almost a 2-hour mark. I know it's a little long, but we got through it. We battled through it together. I appreciate everybody joining in with us. But last thing, what would you give out as your best bet for UFC Vegas 28?
Well, I'll tell you what. Let me think about the best bet for a second. For a dog, I love Pueyes. I love Latifi. And I think that there's really good value on those two dogs, if that's your thing. My best bet, if I was just slam something with confidence, and this is a classic like Eli style, I would parlay Mano, and I would parlay who's my other one? Mason Jones. And I would slam that. I don't know what the odds turn out to be. You probably
minus 157.
I'm all over that, man. I would hit that hard.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I think that's around my my favorite play as well. Because I was big on Mano before the fight change, and I've always been big on Mason Jones as well. So it's kind of hard for me to not parlay them together and just kind of get a little better odds there. So yeah, that's our breakdown for UFC Vegas 28. But before we go, our man Eli, where can everybody find you on social media?
Yeah, hop onto Facebook, type in the Zone Sports, and you'll find my group, daily insight, free plays, information about packages and stuff. I'm not one of those sticklers. If you want to talk fights and you want to know what I'm into, just hit me up and we can chat about it. I'll give you what I'm into. I also bet other major sports. I'm up about 20 units in the last 4 weeks, spanning across UFC, MLB, and NBA. MLB's been pretty hot. NBA playoffs have been pretty hot, so I'm feeling pretty good about all that stuff. I'm sure a little bit of regression is coming because I've been on a ripping pace, but yeah, man.
All right, and you guys know where to find me at Fight Analyst LLC on Twitter, the Fight Analyst LLC on Instagram, and the Fight Analyst on Facebook. And head over to thefightanalyst.com and get my package today. We're making a ton of money this weekend, and let's get this money. We will see you all cashing out at the ticket window. Until next time, you guys have a great night. Peace. Adios.
Am I back?
Yeah, you good. Adios.